It's time for our favorite game here on The Jump, BS or Real Talk. Team USA opened practice in Las Vegas on Monday. Assistant coach Steve Kerr was asked about his newest player on the Warriors, D'Angelo Russell. Let's take a listen to Steve Kerr.
I'm excited to coach him. You know, he's a great young talent, and I think he's going to fit right in with our group. And we're going to need him desperately. Without Clay, especially, we need D'Angelo's scoring, and it's up to us as a staff to figure out, you know, how best to use him and to shape the team, shape the offense, and we'll figure it out.
All right, Kerr says D'Lo will fit right in. BS or Real Talk in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, I jumped the gun.
It's okay.
Dang it.
It's all right. I
was just so excited about my take.
Go ahead. Give it to me, Malika.
I think that this is genuine from Steve Kerr.
Yeah.
And they have a history of being able to embrace players, bring them in, and be able to have their culture absorb these guys. And I know that D'Angelo Russell has, not only are there questions with him and his fit on the court, you know, will he be as good of a two-way player as Klay Thompson was for them? Probably not. He doesn't have the size he does as a defender. And then also in the locker room, this is a more, for the most part, mature group. And how will this younger person come and fit in there? But Steve saying that this is on us to be able to bring everybody in, I think that is 100% genuine.
Jonathan, they're going to need him. So I think this is Real Talk because of that, right? And because, look, he's a very skilled offensive player. So I think it's on really Steve Kerr to try to make it work with him. He's not used to the motion offense type stuff. He's more of a pick and roll type player. But can you find a balance between those two games if you're Steve Kerr?
I think they have to. Like you said, they lost a lot this offseason. They don't have a lot of guard depth. And you don't want to really ride Steph Curry 82 games, you know, ask him to score 30 points a game. He's not going to have anything left in the tank by the time the playoffs comes around. And so you need D'Angelo Russell to be an all-star for you. You need him soaking up a lot of possessions, playing a lot of pick and roll, you know, scoring 20, 22, 25 points a game for you to stay competitive, to maybe try and get home court advantage if you can, you know, not fall too far, you know, 5, 6 seed, because otherwise it's going to be really difficult, especially if Clay doesn't come back by the playoffs.
Who's going to have to adapt more? Will it be Russell or will it be Kerr?
I think Kerr is going to have to change things. I mean, you know, not having that safety valve of just putting the ball in KD's hands and saying, go to work for me, or bringing Klay Thompson off those stagger screens like we've seen, all those dribble handoffs. That's going to be an adjustment. And so he's going to have to change things because a lot of the offense last year went through Draymond. You know, he was the main facilitator in the half court. And so now you have D'Angelo, who isn't really as used to playing without the ball as, you know, and make some tweaks to the offense.
Malika, do you think that D'Angelo can take another step, not just as far as his game's concerned, but do you think he still has room to grow just from a maturity standpoint, being around these kind of guys?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw D'Angelo just get a breath of fresh air when he went from Los Angeles to Brooklyn. He was able to take a step back. He grew a lot. He, it seems, has learned a lot from being on that team. And now he's going to be surrounded by a lot of mature guys who have been there, who have experienced winning. And he's joining this group at an interesting time, right? Because they are just moving on past the KD era. And so it will be interesting to Jonathan's point to see what Steve Kerr does with this group, because remember, Steve Kerr inherited Andre Iguodala and that group that had already been together. And this is the first time we're seeing some real shakeups happen in his tenure. So he is going to have to be making those adjustments. And that's not D'Angelo specific. That's more of a larger thing that the Warriors are reckoning with right now.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. USA camp is underway, but the conversation remains on the players not in Las Vegas. So Mccollum is among the top players who turned down the chance to play in the World Cup. When asked why on the Woj Pod, CJ had an interesting take. Let's listen.
If it was moved up earlier, if it wasn't so much travel between, if it wasn't so close to the September 30 deadline, a lot of guys would have been more likely to do it. But I think the other thing that changed is the state of the NBA is different than it's been in a long time. There's a lot of teams competing for a championship now. You know, every year it's different based on who's the favorites and what's open, what's not open, team movement, roster movement, etc. But I think everybody feels like they have a chance.
All right. So here we go. BS or real talk in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I'm going to go all real talk. Go ahead, Jonathan. You start.
I just don't think NBA teams want their players playing in the World Cup. I mean, you look at Giannis, went through such a long season with the Bucks, now needs to join the Greek national team August 1, potentially going all the way to September 15th, then going almost straight into the NBA, preseason. That's a crazy long season for a guy like that who plays with the amount of force that he does, who carries such a heavy load. And so, Giannis feels some obligation, I think, to Greece to do it because in the years past he didn't. And I think that there's the Bucks would probably rather, he sit out a couple of these exhibition games maybe, but Giannis just isn't wired that way.
Yeah, I was going to say, good luck.
Do that.
You would know best, right?
So
good luck.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason you're seeing, Ben Simmons inks an extension and the next day pulls out of the Australian national team. Mm-hmm. I just don't think NBA teams want their players playing in this. And then not to mention, a guy like Zion goes to USA Basketball, and is around all these guys. They start talking about super teams and stuff. I'm not sure if that's what all these NBA teams want their young guys talking about right now.
Well, out of the ashes of Heat Big Three dissolved, rose the Golden State Warriors. And now the Golden State Warriors Big Three has dissolved or been injured or a little bit of both. And so for the first time since that happened, the league feels wide open and everybody feeling like they have a chance. Certainly not every chance is created equally. That being said, there is a real vacancy that a lot of teams think that they have a chance to fill. And load management was a term that we heard a lot last season, and that was just talking about the NBA season. That's not to mention the summer workouts and Team USA schedule and all of that. So if teams are already doing load management during the summer, they want their guys taking the summer off because they have a whole season to play and a title run to make. And so it's going to be a trend that I think we see continue.
I couldn't agree with you more. If you really look at it, we did this show a couple of weeks ago here on The Jump where how many teams had a realistic chance or what we call the puncher's chance at winning a championship. I had 8, okay? I had 6 in the Western Conference, the 2 LA teams, the Denver Nuggets, the Utah Jazz, who am I missing? The Houston Rockets, and the Warriors, right, the Warriors. And you know what? I'll add another one. How about the Blazers potentially in that scenario? And then the 2 East teams with Milwaukee and Philadelphia. So that's actually 9 teams, I think, that have at least a puncher's chance at winning a championship. So I'm 100% with you on that. But, Jonathan, let's get back to Team USA then. Who could push the U.S. in this scenario? Like, who's a team that you think the U.S. should absolutely be keeping their eyes on?
Well, Vegas says Serbia are the favorites after U.S., and I have to agree with them. We're talking about 6 NBA players on their roster with Nikola Jokic, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Nemanja Bjelica, Boban Marjanovic, Milos Teodosic, and Marko Guduric, who just joined the Memphis Grizzlies, and not to mention Vasa Micic, who is waiting in the wings for the 76ers, might join them at some point. So that's a loaded roster. These guys have played together. They know each other from a very young age. They're very well coached. They've got
that picture's great.
Anyone who has love like that is gonna give the U.S. a run for their money. I mean, look at that. That's just pure.
Serbia is a great team, and they have their whole roster, and they're coming for the U.S. I don't think it's going to happen personally. I think the U.S. is going to win every game by double digits. I think they're the clear favorites still. But it's going to be fun. I mean, there's going to be some really good games in the group stage. What happens with Australia, Canada, Lithuania, the group of death. It's going to be fascinating.
Who's in the U.S.'s group, for those that don't know?
Greece.
No, Greece has. I'm not sure. It's going to be a cakewalk for them. The group B, which is Australia, Canada, Lithuania, Senegal.
Right. That's a tough group.
That's a really tough group because, Senegal takes a game off somebody, all of a sudden you're out of it altogether. Canada thinks that, maybe they're, medal contender. Lose Jamal Murray, Shea Alexander. That's pretty tough for them.
Sure. No doubt. Kyle Lowry is still recovering from his thumb injury from the playoffs, but still plans to play for Team USA in September. Sports Illustrated asked Kyle about defending the Raptors NBA title without Kawhi Leonard. Here's what Kyle said. We're still going to be able to run it back. We're the champions, and we're trying to defend our title. I'm confident with our team. So, Malika, you ready? 3, 2, 1, BS or real talk? Yeah, I'm with you. Go ahead.
It's you. Okay.
I believe that he believes that.
Okay, yes. No, if that was the question, it would be this.
Believe that he believes
Are
that.
they going to win the championship? No, they're probably not.
Or even go deep in the playoffs. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think they make it to the first round. I mean, maybe to the second. I don't see them. They're Boston, Milwaukee,
Philly.
They're just too strong for them. But I mean, they're a tough team. I mean, they still have Lowry, Van Vliet, Pascal Siakam is going to make a big jump.
Right.
Marc Gasol, Ibaka. I mean, don't discount the experience they garnered over that championship run. But just losing Kawhi, that's a heartbreaker for them.
Being able to run it back is something that that's where my BSO meter kind of started to go off a little bit.
Yeah.
But Kyle Lowry is a genuine guy.
Sure.
This is saying the right things. And are they going to try to defend our title? If we're parsing apart words, then yes, they're going to try. Will they be successful in that endeavor? I mean, Vegas says no.
Probably
I say
not.
no.
Yeah.
It would be a very challenging uphill battle. And it's going to be interesting to see the ramifications of what happens to this team now. So if they won this championship with Kawhi left, and now it's okay, so Kyle Lowry's going to be coming up pretty soon in free agency. And what are the ramifications of how they do this year? How will that affect everything going forward? So they're in sort of an interesting time because of that.
Yeah, they've got proud guys on this team, right? Like Kyle, particularly Marc Gasol, right? You mentioned
the competitors.
Yeah, the ascension of Pascal Siakam, Van Vliet, all those guys. I think they will be solidly in the playoff mix, barring catastrophic injuries. But yeah, just getting past that first round, I think maybe, that could be doable, but getting past that might be really tough for them, I think.
Does Masai have any, tricks up his sleeve
Perhaps.
at the trade deadline?
Yeah.
He's not
does.
been bashful about
No,
trades.
well, we know that for sure after last season. So coming up next, since we've got our draft expert here in the house with Jonathan,